There's nothing glamorous about trying to sleep when you're America's most wanted fugitive. Every sound in the dark could mean lawmen closing in, or just another rat nosing around in the straw. For Charles Pretty Boy Floyd, the nights were the worst part of being on the run. Outlaw folklore likes to make him out as a dashing bank robber, always a step ahead, wild and free. But the real story is grim, filthy, cold, and crawling with things far less romantic than a Tommy gun. So let's drop the Robin Hood myth for a moment and get to the gritty question. Where did Floyd really sleep while he was running for his life? And what did that do to him? Picture Oklahoma in the early 1930s. Floyd has just robbed another bank. The sheriff is on his trail, and federal agents are spreading out across the back row. There's no safe house waiting with a hot meal and a soft bed. What Floyd gets instead is an old barn that stinks of moldy hay and manure, half collapsed from storms, crawling with barn lice that make bed bugs look like a luxury. His bed is a mound of wet straw, trampled by cows and soaked by rain for weeks. It's not soft, not clean, and if he's lucky, not completely underwater. If not, he sleeps in damp clothes, sweat mixing with the stink of manure, and the gasoline lingering from his getaway car out back. This is the first reality check. For Depression-era outlaws like Floyd, hiding out meant barns, fields, and swamps, not secret hideaways, not plush safe houses. And you never slept in the same place twice. Staying comfortable was a luxury you couldn't afford, not when every extra minute in one spot increased the odds of waking up to a badge in your face. Occasionally, a local family might warn Floyd if the law was closing in, or let him catch a few hours in a back shed. But trusting strangers was a gamble, and the cash reward for turning in a famous fugitive had a way of making loyalties shift overnight. Lawmen knew the obvious hiding spots. Every barn could be a risk, every field a potential trap, so Floyd slept fully dressed, boots on, revolver in hand. Rest wasn't a reward, it was a calculation. Could you risk closing your eyes, or would you wake up with your face in the dirt and a gun pointed at your head? The physical reality never let up. Imagine itchy straw poking through worn-out clothes, every flea bite or louse leaving scabbed-over patches on your skin. Floyd's hands, already rough from farm work and gunfighting, grew more cracked and filthy by the night. If he got wounded, and he did, from running, scrapping, or just plain bad luck, there was no proper cleaning, no fresh bandage. Infection was always lurking. The smell was a blend of old sweat, animal funk, and rotting hay. Every breath sour and thick. If the weather turned, rain dripping through the broken roof would soak everything, right down to his bones. Sleep under these conditions barely qualifies as rest. It's more like unconscious waiting, with your body twitching awake at every creak, every distant bark, every scuttle of a mouse. You drift off for 20 minutes, then jerk awake when something rustles or skitters past your head. The gun never leaves your hand. You have to be ready to bolt or fight before your brain even catches up. This isn't the outlaw life Hollywood sells. Sharp suits, fast cars, dramatic romances, and criminals who always look freshly pressed after weeks on the run. The romantic outlaw probably had hay stuck in his teeth, open sores from bug bites, and a rash from lice that never really went away. You haven't truly lived the Depression outlaw grind until you've woken up in a straw pile with a mouse in your boot and half your skin itching. So why didn't Floyd just find something better? It's a fair question. The truth is, sometimes he did. If the weather was brutal or the bugs were winning, he might risk a cheap roadside motel. But that brought new dangers: thin walls, mystery stains, cigarette burns in the sheets, and the worst threat of all, a desk clerk who might be working for the law. We'll get there soon enough. Before that, let's be clear about the stakes. Floyd wasn't just running from one posse. He was dodging local police, state troopers, and, eventually, the FBI. Roadblocks went up. Rewards were posted in every small-town post office from Oklahoma to Ohio, and cars crept along every back road. Any bed that came with a roof also came with a risk: informers, traps, or a midnight raid. And here's the real cost: sleep deprivation. Night after night of bad rest grinds a person down. Your body aches, your mind clouds, and paranoia creeps in. Every itch feels like a threat. Every cough could give you away. Outlaws like Floyd weren't just trying to survive shootouts. They were fighting their own bodies, battling exhaustion, and calculating how much longer they could push before a mistake took them down. So let's forget the legend for a minute and walk through a night on the run, step by step. Floyd's options start bad and only get worse the more exhausted he gets. Every choice, a trade-off between physical misery and the kind of risk that gets you killed. Start with the barn. You're Floyd. It's past midnight, and the last safe house is miles behind you. No light except a sliver of moon and the distant glow of a farmhouse, which could mean help or trouble. You slip into a half-collapsed barn, gun drawn, feeling your way inside. The smell is almost overwhelming: manure, mold, sharp ammonia from old straw, layers of sweat and rot soaked through by years of Oklahoma storm. You can't risk a lantern, so you move by touch, one hand on your gun, the other on splintered beams. Each step stirs up dust and scat. Picking a spot to sleep isn't as simple as collapsing anywhere. Too close to the door and you're ambush bait. Too deep in darkness and you might be sharing a corner with a nest of rats. The straw is damp, trampled, alive with biting lice and fleas that hitch rides in your seams. The only warmth comes from your own shivering. Boots stay on. No one ever made a quick getaway barefoot in a cow pasture. Sleep is shallow and broken. Every groan of the barn, every creak of the boards, sounds like a gun cocking. You freeze at the wind, straining to tell if that was just a breeze or someone's step outside. If you've ever tried to nap in a loud bus station, multiply that by 100. Then add the threat of a lynch mob or a federal agent with a revolver at the ready. That's a Floyd night. Half dozing, never letting go of the gun, never trusting, even your own exhaustion. The straw is more than uncomfortable. It's a delivery system for bites, rashes, and dirt that gets everywhere. Your collar, your boots, even the grip of your gun. Try cleaning a revolver in the dark with straw dust up your nose and a bandaged wound burning under your shirt. Nobody wrote love songs about waking up with straw glued to your cheek and a dozen new bug bites. And here's the kicker. Sometimes the alternative to the barn is even worse. If the place gets too risky, maybe it's too close to a main road, or word is out that lawmen are sweeping the area. Floyd is gone before sunrise, stumbling through ditches and hedgerows, ducking low, always on the move. Fields are colder, wetter, and even less forgiving. Dew soaks through every layer of clothing. Mosquitoes swarm your face, and the wet earth steals away whatever heat you have left. If you're caught out in the open, there's nowhere to hide, no tent, just the hope that the cold will keep you from slipping into real sleep, because if you do, you might wake up staring straight at a badge. After 2 or 3 nights of this, anyone would start to break down. Sleep deprivation isn't just inconvenient, it messes with your head. Paranoia shifts from fearing the law to flinching at your own shadow or mistaking a coyote's howl for a siren. Food runs out, maybe a stale biscuit or a piece of jerky stolen days before. Water comes from a creek you're pretty sure is full of cow manure. Hygiene? Not a chance. The only bath you get is a downpour that leaves you shivering and your clothes steaming with that rank, wet wool funk. Eventually, Floyd has to make a decision, stay out in the wild and let the elements finish him, or risk a roof over his head. That's when he gambles on a cheap motel. Hollywood loves these places. Neon lights, smoky lobbies, a sultry clerk behind the desk. The real thing? A windowless front room that smells like boiled cabbage and disinfectant, sheets that might once have been white, and springs sticking through the mattress like broken bones. The bathroom is a tin bucket in the corner. Every wall is thin as paper, and you can hear the next guest cough or mutter about strangers in the night. But the real danger isn't the filth, it's the people. That desk clerk might be a nervous kid or a grizzled old-timer, either one ready to spot Floyd's wanted poster face, the nervous glances, the cash paid up front. There's always a risk someone will slip out the back, make a call, or tip off a neighbor with a grudge and a good memory. So Floyd checks in under a fake name, hand never far from his coat pocket. He tries to get a room at the end of the hall, always leaves his boots on, gun under the pillow, eyes fixed on the door. The ritual never changes. The challenge isn't just sleeping through the noise, it's surviving the waiting. Every car pulling up outside, every footstep in the corridor could mean the next knock is the one that ends it all in a hail of gunfire, not a bed of straw. Here's a host reality check. Depression-era motels were basically the world's worst lottery. You might get a roof, but you're guaranteed a rash, and room service just means the sheriff coming through your window at midnight. Floyd wasn't a fool. He knew the odds. Sometimes he'd skip trying for sleep altogether and sit up in a chair, gun in hand, shoes laced, nerves stretched tight as wire, just in case a fast exit was the only way out. Any rest was just a series of 10-minute blackouts, snapped awake by the smallest sound, a cough, a scream, a car door slamming somewhere in the dark. How long can anyone keep that up? Not very. Every night of bad sleep made Floyd slower, more desperate, and more likely to slip up. Old wounds got infected. Bug bites turned to sores that never healed. Lice, carried from barn to barn, moved in for good. Dirty sweat soaked through every shirt. Sooner or later, even the best hiding place couldn't protect him from the toll. The real risk wasn't just getting shot, but the creeping certainty that his body was simply running out of time. As bad as all that sounds, there's still another level. The real nightmare wasn't just filth or fear. It was what happened in the instant when Floyd finally started to drift off. That was the moment when the law, or a neighbor with a grudge, was most likely to find him. Sleep wasn't relief. It was the single most dangerous gamble of all. So what happens to a man, any man, after months or years of this? For Pretty Boy Floyd, the body just starts to break down. It's not sudden or cinematic. It's slow, humiliating, and downright physical. Scrapes from midnight dashes across barbed wire turn red and puffy, then start to ooze. Bug bites from a night in a hayloft become open sores. The aches from sleeping on boards or wet ground set in your hips and never let go. Headaches, dizziness, shivering hands. These become your new normal. Sleep deprivation is a silent poison. It makes you slower, then jumpy, then just plain stupid. Half the time, Floyd had to move not because of the law at his heels, but because his own body was failing. Some nights the cold was so bad your teeth would ache, and you'd lie awake, fully dressed, revolver in hand, toes numb, debating whether lighting a cigarette was worth the risk of being seen. When the sun finally came up, you'd be out again, limping and dirty, eyes burning from a night spent only half conscious. The world starts to look like a threat, the sound of a truck on the road, a dog barking nearby, even the neighbor's friendly knock. Why did so many depression outlaws get described as wild-eyed? Try going 3 days on catnaps with 100 men hunting you. And here's the hardest truth. Floyd's most dangerous moments weren't the shootouts, but the slow, heavy minutes when exhaustion finally pinned him down. Every lawman knew it. Most fugitives got caught asleep. Nobody brags about a takedown because someone was snoring in a field, but that's how it usually happened. All that paranoia and discomfort, it wasn't just misery for misery's sake. It was a permanent disadvantage, a tax on every reaction, every decision. You start making mistakes, trust the wrong person for a bed, stay just a little too long somewhere that feels safe. Dream with your mouth open and wake up with the law at the door. There are stories, documented or at the very least suggested, of Floyd barely escaping barns, seconds ahead of a raid, locals warning him just in time, or a motel manager tipping off the sheriff for a reward. Every minute of rest was borrowed, paid for with risk. Living that way, even the nice beds are just traps. You don't really sleep, you just lose consciousness. And when your luck finally runs out, it's not heroic. It's a dirty, cramped scramble in the dark, with a gun in your hand and a body too battered to run. Floyd's last days followed this same pattern, running, hiding, hoping for help, then snatching a few minutes of sleep in some half-safe spot, always knowing it could end at any moment. That's the real horror of outlaw life. It's not the bullets or headlines. It's the slow destruction of your own body, the way filth and fear eat you alive, night after night. Hollywood loves the gunfights and the sharp suits. Floyd's reality was a pair of filthy boots, an infected scratch, and eyes ringed black from weeks without rest. The myth says outlaws burned hot and died fast. In reality, the edge was a lice-infested mattress, and quick was never quick enough. So next time you hear the name Pretty Boy Floyd, don't picture the folk hero. Picture a man so desperate for sleep he'd risk his life for a few hours, lying on a stained mattress or a pile of straw. This story isn't just about crime and punishment. It's about the price of living hunted. Every ache, every itch, every second of sleep that could be your last. And if you want to know what finally brought Floyd down, sure, you can say it was the law or a hail of gunfire outside an Ohio cornfield. But the truth, the real enemy was sleep itself. If you want more stories that rip the shine right off American Outlaw Legends, subscribe for the next round. We'll keep showing you the side of history, Hollywood left in the dirt, itch, filth, and all,